everyone, my name is Lena and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my partner Tyler and I have been renovating our home and sharing our entire process here on our YouTube channel. And actually, I'm really excited to say that we just hit 1,000 subscribers. So in this video, we have a Q&A, but also, hold on, let me grab it. I have a cake. I got a cake to celebrate us hitting 1,000 subscribers because I'm so extremely excited. Hold on, let me put this down. I'm so extremely excited to be at the point where there's 1,000 of you who have chosen to subscribe to our channel. It is so extremely special that we get to share this journey with you guys. I mean, not only do we get to work on our home and renovate it, which is something we're already doing, but we also get to share the journey with you guys. And it's just so incredibly important to celebrate that. So yes, there's a cake, but more importantly, there is a Q&A. I pulled some questions from my last video asking you guys to ask us questions, and I'm going to pull Tyler in and we're going to answer them. So let's go ahead and get to it. Okay, so the first question that we got is, are you both from New Orleans?
So that's actually a really good question. So I am originally from New Orleans. My family has actually lived here a really long time. In fact, my family is actually some of the first group of people, like the Acadian French, who came and settled New Orleans. So needless to say, we've been here a while, and I plan on staying here for a while.
It's actually pretty cool, though, because, like, Tyler, sometimes, like, when we first started dating and we came to New Orleans, he would sometimes, like, point to a house and be like, this is where my, like, grandparents, my great-grandparents lived. And I feel like that's really cool because me personally, I'm not from the area. My family has never, like, been in one, like, place historically. So I feel like that's very unique to point out, especially now that we're living here. But anyways, I say all that to say that I am from Georgia. That is, I mean, Georgia and Florida, but mostly Georgia. I went to college in Georgia, and that leads to our next question. How did we both meet? So as I was saying, I'm from Georgia. I went to college in Atlanta, and Tyler went to grad school in Atlanta. And I believe I had just transferred in to my school. I was a junior, and he was just entering his...
We actually, like, transferred, or I started going to school, and you transferred, like, the same semester.
Yeah, like, he had just started his grad program, and I think we later found out that we moved within, like, a week. We didn't know each other at the time, but, like, we both moved to Atlanta around the same exact, like, 2-week span. Anyways, we met online, and that's how we ended up dating. We did not go to the same school.
She goes to another school.
But yeah, that's how we started dating and how we met. Do you have family that have done remodeling or renovation projects, and where did you learn some of your skills? So this is actually a really good question. Of course, by the nature of the work that we're doing, it's totally understandable why you're asking this. I personally did not have any experience whatsoever prior to buying this house. In fact, I was not at all comfortable with power tools. So it's been a large, like, learning journey for me to, like, build that confidence and really tackle projects. But I feel like a lot of it is inspired by Tyler.
Yeah. So growing up, like, my family did definitely do some things. Like, my dad was very involved in the construction of my parents' current house after Katrina. So I watched him do a lot, but I was really young at the time. Like, I didn't have any interest in, like, power tools or, like, doing handy stuff. Like, I never was really that type of kid. And really a lot of my interest in this actually just comes from, personal interest. So I actually, like, am trained as an engineer and as an architect. I have degrees actually in both. And actually, like, my work, what I do as a job, I specifically do, like, building energy efficiency. So I do a lot in this space, and I've learned a lot through my job and just through my training, and I've been in the environment for a while. So I think a lot of things just came together, and now I actually get to do the work that I talk about all the time, here in our house.
Yeah, which, I mean, is super helpful for me because, like, sometimes even I, like, catch myself and I'm like, I feel like I start to sound like you, and where I, like, drop some terminology where I'm like, oh yeah, like the retrofit or whatever. And it's, it's just from experience, but also, like, exposure because of, the research that we do, also our interest. A lot of it is self-taught, obviously, like, even with...
Yeah, everything is self-taught for me.
Yeah, like, even with, like, Tyler's interest in, like, buildings and, like, stuff like that, it's 100% like us researching things, watching a ton of YouTube videos, and just trying to get as much information as we can before we begin projects. So that's where our skills come from. It's just trial and error.
Yeah, I mean, you can learn pretty much everything as you go.
Yeah.
There's generally there's not really bad things that can happen, assuming that you're careful. Like, generally, things are fixable, and you can always improve things over time. So, I mean, you got to start somewhere. And if you start small, you really can, get to a place where you can be more comfortable and take on projects like this.
Yeah, if anything I've learned, it's just like mostly confidence mixed with, research and a plan. But yeah, that is where we got our skills from. So this leads to the next question, which is, what do you both do for work and how can you afford to renovate a home like this? This is another really good question. I think it makes total sense. If I was on the other side watching this, I'd be like, wow, you guys do look pretty young. Like, how are you able to afford this? And it's a two-parted question, right? The first thing is, what do you do for work? We mentioned before on this channel, we both work from home. Literally, like 99% of our time, we are here at home. That bled into a lot of things when we were searching for a home, like the type of home that we were looking for. So yeah, we both work from home. I personally, I work in marketing, and then Tyler, he's kind of touched on it a little bit already.
Yeah, so I work in the buildings industry. I specifically work on building energy efficiency, and I do a lot of work actually with building retrofits in existing buildings. So that, once again, it's like my interests align with what we're able to do here. And as Lena said, like, we both work from home. We actually work in the same room. We worked in the same room for, like 4 years now.
Yeah, like even before buying our house. But that's the first part, which is like, what do we do? We both work from home. We have desk jobs. That also like goes to speak to like our progress. Like, we're 100% doing this in our free time, on the weekends, in the evenings. That takes time, of course. Obviously, like, if we watch so many YouTubers who do like DIY content or like renovation content, and literally Tyler said to me before, like, man, if we had all day, every day, this was our only thing that we had to think about, our home would be finished very quickly. Probably,
it'd be beautiful.
Yeah, it'd be beautiful overnight, and probably we'd be able to afford like to do it as quickly as we wanted, but I digress. That is the first part of the question. The second part is, how are you able to afford to renovate a home like this? And
I can take that on.
Sure, yeah, if you want to.
So one of the things that you may not see because of how the videos are posted, but we take a lot of time to do everything. Like, every single project takes a while, and we only take on what we can actually afford. That's why we haven't like done everything in the house. We're going room by room, and like, we just have so much money. Like, we are just normal people who just have a small budget to do this. So like, we have a constrained budget, we do what we can, and then we move on to the next room as things can actually get finished.
Yeah,
but we don't have tons of time either.
I mean, I think the main takeaway is that, we do both work full time. We're also the only people who are, obviously this is our home, we're the only ones funding it, right? So like, a part of taking it bite by bite is things take time, right? Like, when we first moved into the house, we had an understanding that we were not tackling the kitchen like at the first pass. So what that has looked like and what it has unfolded as is that we have been without an oven, without like a proper, clean, functioning kitchen, like literally bare necessities with a microwave and an air fryer for like the past year and a half. And that is the reality that we knew we were going into. And that's been like a large reason as to why we've been able to afford it, right? Because we knew we weren't going to do certain things in a certain manner. Also, we don't have air conditioning. You know what I mean? Like, there's just certain things that we knew we would have to hold off on or like save until we could afford it. And that's kind of been like a major thing that I don't think we've talked about, but we've definitely been living with, which we're totally okay with. It hasn't been that bad, but that's the reality of how we are able to afford what we're doing. Do you have advice for finding an older home that needs renovation?
Yeah, I can take this question on. So, based upon our experience that we've had here, if I were to like give recommendations to somebody trying to do this, it would be try to find a house that's in bad condition, but not too bad. Like, you want a house which is neglected enough that you can get a good deal on it and you can actually afford it, but not too bad that you actually can't live there, or you can't get a mortgage, or you just got to knock the whole thing down or gut it. Like, there's a sweet spot, and finding those types of homes, it's kind of tricky. I think that a lot of, the typical recommendations, like, oh, look for short sales and things like this, you just can't do that as a normal person. Like, you need to have like cash if you're doing a sale like that. But really, my advice is like, just find something that needs some work but isn't too bad. That way you can actually get a mortgage and you can actually afford it. And that's really the key thing is like affordability. Like you can get like a renovation loan, all of these things, but you know, it's also easier to take things bite by bite and, you know, do what you can afford as you can do it. And also like live in the space so that you also learn how you use the space and what you want out of your house.
Yeah, I will also say too, I've actually made a video shortly after buying this house. I'll leave it linked below, but I basically went over how we were able to get this house. Obviously, like we had a lot of hurdles and like a lot of things, a lot of hoops that we had to jump through because we did get a conventional loan for this home. Obviously, if you've seen our like walkthrough of the house, like the day that we got the keys, you'll be like, how in the world? But it's possible. I think to couple with the question, like with your answer, I would definitely say like get your inspections done. I think if you are specifically looking at older homes, obviously there's going to be some things. If you know what to look for, I feel like that already like gets you like a little bit, you're like a little more advanced in terms of like the average person going and touring homes. So I would really, really, really do your research, familiarize yourself with big ticket items that cost a lot of money. If you're just like a regular person, like thinking about buying an older home, like it's not, I feel like the barrier of entry for knowledge can sometimes be a little bit intimidating, especially when it comes to homes, if you've never purchased a home before. But it's really easy to like look at like, just like simple, like very like you're just walking through and you're like looking at the foundation, you know, look at the roof. Definitely ask your inspectors like a million questions. That would be my major advice is like familiarize yourself with what could possibly go wrong and then also hiring inspectors and ask them a million questions because they want you to. You're literally paying them money, so you definitely should use your resources. Oh, also too, make sure your inspectors are like, you know, they know what they're talking about. Like read the reviews, like ask for suggestions, ask your realtor, do everything in your power to like get as much information on your side as possible. That's like the biggest thing. What are your all-time favorite secondhand finds?
So for me, my favorite thing that we got is actually our ceiling fans. It sounds like really ridiculous, but because we don't have air conditioning or heat, like our ceiling fans are super important. So we wanted like an old style Hunter cast iron fan, and they sell those out there. Like they're super expensive. They're like $600 each, or you can buy vintage ones, but they're still super expensive. And one day we found some on Facebook Marketplace. Like we had been searching for a while and we just happened to find somebody that bought a house, had all these fans and just did not want them. So they were selling them for like $100 each. And it was just incredible. Like $100, these things cost $600. They were in perfect condition. They were installed right before they bought the house. So they sold us all of the fans we needed for our entire house for the price of one fan. Crazy, crazy stuff.
That's literally, I screamed. Whenever we saw that, I was like, what the heck? We literally went, like dropped everything and we drove and bought them
Yeah,
like, within the hour.
they were like having a sleepover for their kid's birthday party. We're like, we're showing up right now.
Yeah, because that's literally like the type of thing where you're like, there's no way. But no, we like showed up and they even were like, yeah, our electrician thought we were crazy. And I'm like, I'm not going to say that because I'm very lucky to be buying it, but that I would agree. I think that's definitely our favorite find. I think second behind that would be our sunroom windows. That was also another situation where we bought them immediately because we knew that it like fit the bill for what we were looking for and it was a really good deal. So
yeah, we had been searching forever and just happened to find them one time when we went to the Green Project and just happened to find the perfect size windows, the perfect amount. It just all worked out.
Yeah, so those two would be definitely the things. What are your pets like? So this is a really funny question to me because I think I've only shown Glenn and Carol in a few of my videos, but if I had to describe Glenn, I would definitely say he's like the grumpy old man from Up, where at first he seems really grumpy and overall you would definitely describe him as grumpy, but he does have his sweet moments. Yeah, he's definitely like in the same room as you, but probably across the room.
Yeah, and then Carol, our greyhound, she's very shy, but she also really likes people and new animals. So she's kind of awkward. Like if you bring her to the dog park, she'll go stand in the corner and stare at a wall. But like one-on-one, she loves meeting new people and new animals, and she gets so excited. But just to let you know, like Carol is also super awkward. Like she has only barked like 3 times in her whole life. And she's also like super energetic for about 2 minutes out of the day. And then the other 23 hours she's asleep. Or she's just laying there vegetating, staring at you. So, our pets, they're different. They're not, like anybody else's pets. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
When you began your renovation, was there anything that you went into it expecting to be super easy that turned out to be extremely difficult, and vice versa?
So for me, the thing that I thought would be super easy is getting rid of stuff. Like, we had a lot of things that need to be removed from our house. Like, we tore the bathroom completely apart, and also our yard had tons of junk. Like, on HGTV, when you look at these shows, they're like, oh, demo day, it's so fun, take all the stuff out, throw it in the dumpster. You really can't do that all the time. Dumpsters are really expensive, and you can only have them for so long. So what this looks like in practicality is you just have a giant pile of junk in your yard, and at a certain point, it got to like half the size of our house. Like, it got to half the height. Our junk pile got very large, very fast, and we just had to live with that for like almost a year. So that was the trickiest part. Like, it's easy to put stuff in a house, it's easy to like design with the trends, but when the next person's got to come and take that stuff out because it's either outdated or it's falling apart, like, it's really a big hassle to get rid of things.
Yeah, I think demo day has definitely been glamorized, but it is not fun. To answer the question about things that were difficult that turned out not to be that bad, for me personally, the thing that comes to mind is the kitchen. Like I mentioned earlier, we went into this knowing that we would not have a kitchen for like a year plus. Like, we didn't really have that like set, when it would happen. So for me, I thought that would be extremely difficult because we both love to cook, and I could not imagine like not having an oven. I couldn't imagine our kitchen being really gross and like not having things as organized. But surprisingly, it wasn't that bad to set up an air fryer and a microwave. Like, that takes you extremely far, which I did not think would, but it definitely...
Also a hot plate. The hot plate's really important.
The hot plate, the microwave, and the air fryer. That is the magic trio right here.
Yeah, you can pretty much cook everything. You can't cook a whole turkey, but like you can pretty much cook everything, assuming that you don't need 2 burners. If you need 2 burners, you might need to buy a second hot plate.
Yeah, I mean, we did have to... A part of not having like a full kitchen is like you do have to dumb down your recipes, like crock pots, simple stuff, super easy. But yeah, that turned out not to be that bad. What have been your favorite and least favorite parts about renovating your home? And has there been anything that you wish you could have done differently?
So for me, my favorite part about renovating our house is that we get to control pretty much everything that happens in the house, and we get to design things exactly the way that we want them to be designed. So if you're like buying a house that's been newly constructed or it was renovated by someone else, you really don't always know what they did. They may have not done things the right way. They may have taken a lot of shortcuts, and we don't have to deal with that with our house. Like, we don't have to compromise. Yeah, we may have to take a little bit more time to do things to save money, but like, we don't really have to compromise in quality on our house, and we can get things done exactly the way that we want them to be done. The least favorite thing, man, for me, I think it's really time. Time is just really... It's really tricky for me because we work full-time jobs, and finding the time to do all of this work after working 40 hours a week and also having downtime, like putting that all together can be very tough. So I always think, as Lena said, about all these people who do this as their full-time job and like do this on YouTube. They make it seem like, oh, like I can get so much stuff done. Of course they can. They have all the time in the world to do the work.
Yeah, and I think for me, kind of similar to you, I really enjoy the fact that, like, because we did it ourselves, like, for example, the sunroom, like, there are certain parts of the sunroom, like the windows, the fact that I spent weeks glazing the windows, it makes me appreciate it a lot more, which sounds extremely silly, but, like, same, like, if we had moved into, like, a move-in ready house, like, I wouldn't be thinking about the windows. I wouldn't be thinking about how much work it took to glaze the windows, but now I'm, like... I could be an average person on the street and I pass some glazed windows and I'm like, that took some time. Like, someone somewhere...
You appreciate the little things.
Yeah, like, you really appreciate the little things. So that's been, like, one of my favorite parts is it really, like, it just makes you really appreciative. And then in terms of my least favorite, I would say, like, because we moved into the house and there were so many, like, practical things that needed to get done in order for things to work for us to live here. So, for example, like, not having a laundry room. Like that was something that we had to build pretty quickly. It felt like we had a
bathroom
timeline.
too. Like
Yeah,
we
a
had
bathroom.
a really aggressive timeline to get that done, and we just had to do it.
Yeah, so because sometimes we have these timelines where it's like we definitely need this done just to make our lives easier and like also functional. I sometimes personally find that I get a little burnt out after projects, and it feels sometimes, especially in the beginning, like it was like one thing after another, and it's a lot of work. It may look like a lot of montages and like, you know, stuff like that, and I love to edit the videos like that, but to be very frank, like it is a lot of work. There's a lot of time and hours spent, which are very enjoyable and it's worth it, but I do get a little burnt out, so.
Yeah, and then the other part of this question was, would we do anything differently? I really can't. Like, I thought a lot about this, and I can't think of anything that I would have done differently about all of our renovation projects and about buying our house.
Yeah, I really can't either. I mean, I feel like that's just like an outlook thing. I think the whole thing is like, everything is a part of the experience, and you learn from it, and you grow from it, and I feel same.
We knew what we were getting into. Like, we're not delusional in that regard. Like, we knew this was going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
And we knew it was going to be tough at times, but, you know, it's been worth it so far.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now that it's been a year and a half, would you say that it's been worth it? For what you paid for the house, could you have found something move-in ready? Would you do it all over again?
I think about whether or not it's been worth it, and I definitely think so. For the price that we bought this house for, we definitely could have bought a move-in ready house. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But would we have been happy with that house? I really don't know. Like, there's no way that we would have been able to buy a house on a lot like this, with a yard like this, of this size, that house this cool, that still had all of the features. Like, no way. We could not have been able to afford that. And if we bought a move-in ready house, it's tricky because I think that's when you start getting into the territory of a starter home, and I don't appreciate the idea of a starter home. I think that it's kind of wasteful, or the thought process is kind of tough at times where like, oh, you only live in a house for a little while, or it's like small enough, and then if you have kids or if you need anything else, you got to move. I did not want to go through that, so I really don't think I would have done anything differently in terms of buying our house. I will say though, at the time that we bought our house, we definitely paid a good bit more than I think that we could have if we had waited. But would we have this house? No. It was just the time. It was just, you know, house prices were very high at that time, and things kept going up and up, and we never knew what would happen to prices. So I think that it all worked out in the end, though, and it'll be well worth it by the time that we're actually finished.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like it also ties in with the whole, like, how can you afford what you're currently doing? Like, we really, like, did try to find the sweet spot. Like, when we were looking at the housing market, like, the things that we could afford, like, were not what we were looking for, and then the things...
Yeah, we wouldn't have been there long. Like...
Yeah, and also, like, style-wise, sometimes, too, or a lot of times when you find things that are move-in ready, like, they've already been renovated, and I feel like that's the really cool thing about old homes that have not been renovated recently or in the last couple of decades is, like, you get to make the choice of, like, what you want to... like preserve, like the character and stuff. I feel like a lot of the character goes away with homes that are like move-in ready, whether it be new construction or recently renovated. And, you know, to each their own in terms of like what you prefer, but what we really wanted was pretty much exactly what we got.
Yeah, we would have definitely also had to compromise, considering we both work from home too. Like, it was important to us when we were looking for a house that we have defined spaces that we can work in. We can actually see ourselves working in places. There's natural light. There's like space to grow. So I really don't think we could have gotten this, you know, in any other house in our price range. So I think that we definitely made the right choice here.
Have you started or completed any other projects in the house? So this is actually a really good question. I say that about every question, but this is a really good question because it addresses, I feel like, the timeline of things. We're obviously posting things after they have been done, which literally the sunroom is a perfect example. We talk about how things take months. And I say all this to say that, yes, we have done other things. So for example, we've already talked about this a little, but we rebuilt an entire like laundry shed that was falling apart. We did film it, but I think it was like month 2 of us living here. And it was extremely stressful at that time. And it was just like a crunch, and we never posted that. I don't really have plans to post it. It's not exactly entertaining or good footage, but that's something that we did. Another thing that we have done is kind of a functional thing. I feel like a lot of things that we don't film are very functional, like projects around the house. So for example, we have worked to make a lot of our windows operable. Not all of them, but most of them. And that's been one of the other things that we tackled really early on, because again, not having air conditioning, like kind of a major thing to have your windows to like be able to open, I feel like. So yeah, anyways, I say that to say something else that we actually are going to be moving on to next is the garbage pile that we talked about outside. We are completely cleaning everything outside. That kind of ties into where we're going in the future, but that is like our next thing. That's something that we're going to be sharing next. It's a very large undertaking. I do not say that to like overemphasize, but like I cannot emphasize enough. It is a huge undertaking to move stuff and put it into a dumpster and clean it and make it look good. So
yeah, and then after that, we're actually going to start work on our kitchen.
oh
So
yes.
the kitchen, it needs help. We really need to tackle it, and also we've been waiting a while to get to that project just because kitchens are expensive. So
Yeah.
that's also next to come.
I think bathrooms and kitchens are typically like the
Yeah.
most expensive.
And then everything else is so easy. Like, you don't have plumbing. You don't have to deal with all these expensive things. You just put drywall up and you're happy.
Yeah, so that's what you can expect from us next. We are cleaning our yard and we are moving on to our kitchen. So yeah. Okay, so for one of our last questions, people want to know, how are the bees?
So the bees have been living their life. They're doing good. But a lot has changed with the bees, and there's been a lot in development. So I actually filmed an update on the bees recently, and we just have not put it together and posted it yet. So be on the lookout for some more updates about our bees.
Be on the lookout.
Yeah.
And for our final question, can we get a sunroom tour? This is really funny to me because at the time of me posting we finished the sunroom video, I was kind of hesitant about showing the sunroom because it didn't really feel complete and in any sense of the word. Like, we were still using furniture from our old apartment. It was kind of like a mishmash of stuff. But like, honestly, it's been a while and we're still using that furniture. So I feel like if it's not now, when will we show it? So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so that pretty much concludes our Q&A. And now that I have my cake here, I'm super excited to go eat our 1,000 subscriber cake and celebrate. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. It means the world to us, and be on the lookout for our next video. See you guys next time. Bye.